says we're starting. Okay. And we are live. So that is good. I have to go through and kind of pull this up on Facebook so I can check it out too. But welcome everybody. Thank you for popping on over. Been a little while here. We like to just surprise you every now and again. And what better surprise for us to bring you this evening, the Merch Fairy, Mr. Ken Reel. How are you doing this evening?
Doing good. It's been a good day. Hasn't been raining in Vegas, which has been kind of common the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, we've actually been pretty fortunate the past, I'm not like day and a half, 2 days here in Michigan. Fortunately, it's getting a little bit warmer. The sun's out and the snow is going away. I'm sure it's just temporary. I don't even pay attention to the weather just because it changes like crazy. But anywho, yeah, so awesome to have you back on again. I know that there was kind of a hot topic recently. It's kind of always a hot topic, I think, but people just might not actually understand the gravity of it sometimes. So, the other day I had done a video just kind of going over the importance of, what's been going on with trademark watchdogs. And for people that are watching here and might not know exactly what that is, can you expand a little bit on what trademark watchdogs is, Ken?
Trademark watchdogs. It's an idea that came from fruition of probably the last 4 years of being in POD and realizing that there's something going on in the industry with trademarks, and there's actually a way that we can fight back. And part of this is understanding how the industry's evolved and what's going on in the industry. And now that we've figured that out, we've figured a way to bring together a group and be able to fight back. And a lot of it affects all of us in the print-on-demand industry. It doesn't matter if we've had one shirt taken down or 1,000 shirts taken down or a brand that we're trying to defend or a brand that's been attacked. If we're just single solitary people, we're going to have a problem. But if we can get together as a community and have people that have each got a bit of a buy-in to what we're doing, we all of a sudden are starting to show some muscle, and we've shown that the last year and a half. That's exactly what we have, and we're making some results, and we're beating back some of these trademark problems that we have.
Yeah, and so, like, for instance, I know that you were talking about this isn't just like the print-on-demand industry necessarily. There was kind of something that was brought to light. I believe it was, I saw it first from you, but it was, from a really big company. And, are you interested in kind of chatting about that a little bit and kind of, shedding light on?
Oh, sure.
Okay, cool. So basically, as far as I know that there is a small, I don't know where the business is actually located, but there is a small business and that had been building a brand, and you'll have to give the name of it, but basically it was Under Armour that's coming after them. And it's very, it seems clearly to me, again, I'm not the authority on this, but it seems incredibly frivolous, just big bully, and I don't even understand how they could even have the rights for this. So can you talk a little bit on that?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because Cascade Armory out of Bend, Oregon, and this is kind of a
I don't even understand how they could even have, sorry.
Oh,
I wanted to see the things on the side, so I did that. But go ahead.
Oh, sure. Cascade Armory out of Oregon. Alex Short. He had a trademark going through for his name, Cascade Armory, if I understand it right. And as it was going to publication, Under Armour came in and said, "We oppose this because we feel," and they sent him a cease and desist letter. Not only a cease and desist, but they wanted to have him take down all his products, take down his store, send over proceeds, send over royalties, send over profits. I'm just paraphrasing what I know, but here's Under Armour coming in claiming that they have rights to the word armor. Now, Armory wasn't even spelt the same. It's not even the same. He's not even in the sporting apparel. I mean, there is no confusion. He's got a rack of horns and an old wilderness. He's got all of the woodsy type of clothes, and here's Under Armour. Who do we see them as? I mean, they're a sporting company,
right?
And here they come in and they're pushing him around. Well, obviously they're pushing him around in the sense to say, "Hey, we're bigger than you. We got more money, more lawyers. You're not going to fight us, and we'll just take you down." The thing is, I think from my perspective, Alex has nothing to lose because he's put his life savings, him and his wife's effort into this company. It's not like they were trying to buy off of the Armory type of a brand. It was something totally different.
Right.
And so they're fighting back, and they've got a GoFundMe going, and they've got change.org, but he's also hired lawyers, and he's going to fight back on this and show them that this is a corporate bully trying to crush the little guy and let him go away. And Under Armour's done this in the past. So it's not the first time they've done it.
Well, and I think that, and that's why I wanted to actually mention it, not just so that people can like know the story, but like just think about that on a mass level. If there's going to be abuse like that, especially from, companies, once they decide that they've, got enough money to do this and they're going to overstep, and that is a huge, huge, huge impact on all the small businesses. And just imagine, I mean, it's a real slippery slope just to let them be able to do that. And so, one of the things that we had talked about, we had been able to spend some time together in California with a group. And, one of the biggest things that you were talking about is needing to make an impact with that, because I mean, you definitely don't want it to get to the point to where it's, just a complete mess and a lost cause, number one, but there are ways to, fight back with that. And, what are some of the thoughts on how to be able to do that?
How to fight back on these? I mean, that's tough because they're banking on the fact that somebody's going to have to spend $40,000 or $50,000 to get it in front of a judge. They're betting that they're not going to have the opposition in front of a judge. Nobody's going to hear the argument. Somebody's just going to walk away because they don't have the money to fight it. And this is almost a large scale example of what's going on in the trademark industry for print on demand. With all the frivolous marks. And let's be very clear right now. And I've seen some comments in the last couple of months about, oh, what's frivolous and what isn't. And, I'll be right up. I'll go and I'll trademark a brand. I'll go out and build a brand. We're not against that. We're not against you actually forming a company and building a brand and doing it right. But that has nothing to do with the thought process of I'm going to walk into the industry and take everybody down.
Right.
I mean, that's not how trademark's supposed to work. And
right, especially with those phrases and stuff. And for example, like I've not done any type of trademark work or looking to get a trademark within the POD space, but we have with our physical brand. And it's interesting because, going through and basically understanding why we want to do it and what we're doing it for, it literally has nothing to do with anybody using the words. Like, I mean, there is some common words within our within our name, but it's not like we're going to try and stake claim to all those words, or even in that space. It has to do with, like you said, causing brand confusion. And obviously looking at the Under Armour thing, I think that'd be clear to anybody if they could get it in front of a judge that, and hopefully they do, that there's not that brand confusion there. And I think that's the problem. And not only that, the overreaching aspect of it. It's like if somebody gets a trademark because they're doing it to protect their investment in what they're doing, you know what? It's different than them saying, I'm going to enforce it. So I'm going to enforce this if you overstep your bounds and if you are actually, infringing on what I'm doing and my brand. But just to simply say, oh, well, I'm going to go out and, slap everybody that is using this phrase or whatever, if it's a common phrase, and that just doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, it's like you talking about, say, I'm not going to mention it and I'll leave that to you, but your private label in Amazon, whatever the name of your company is, it could be common words, common names that are out there. That doesn't mean you don't have a right to go in and show that you have a brand. I mean, even if you have a private label and something else and now you want to make a t-shirt, that doesn't mean that you can't go get a trademark for your brand in your t-shirt. But you're not going to go and take everybody down for those common phrases. And that's what some people aren't understanding, that's what's really got to change in the industry is, oh, I thought of this phrase. It's really cool. I'm going to go trademark and take everybody down.
Right.
That's what the cancer is.
Yeah.
Do you believe that reformation will come with, especially in light of Under Armour bullying and the frivolous trademarks that are running rampant? Because I know because of all these LOPs being filed, they've got to have their eyes kind of turned on more about there being a problem in the industry. Do you see reformation coming soon?
I see us as affecting change, and there's a few things that I see happening right now that show that. just in the last couple of days, we've noticed on a Twitter feed that some attorneys have started talking about how to get, specifically with 025. How do you get a trademark through 025? What are some ways that you get rejected? What are some ways that you're able to get it past the examiner? And in that discussion, somebody brought up, well, I see there's a group that's starting to file frivolous LOPs against frivolous marks. And you're seeing some of this going back and forth on Twitter right now about attorneys. They're saying, yeah, I got into that group. I noticed this group is doing it. Yeah, they seem to be filing a bunch. And you're getting that conversation happening. I've been contacted by a couple of attorneys lately. That's kind of interesting. They say, we found your group. We see what you're doing. I'm interested in doing a story. I'd like to see what's happening with this. Obviously, the USPTO is taking notice because they're backed up. Nobody has ever seen this kind of volume of letters of protest coming through. And that's not to say that we take every phrase we see and as soon as somebody puts it up, let's file an LLP. Let's go take a list of every new trademark application and file LLPs on everything. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for something that's entered the market that, you know, is in a frivolous sense. And some of them are very easy to spot because you get companies that have 20, 30, 40 different phrases that they just nonchalantly go after. They just figure a $225 gamble. And if they can get the mark, they can. And if they can't, they just let it go abandoned. And they just keep filing and filing and filing. Etsy's really bad. Some of the jewelry trademarks are really bad. Some really vicious people. They just get the mark. And the thing that we're seeing is the industry's catching hold. And I think we're just in the alpha stages of people actually taking notice. I've signed up to go out to a convention actually on the beginning of April in California for the California Lawyers Association. They've actually got two of the heads of the USPTO coming out to speak to them. I'm saying, well, let's go out. I mean, we've been talking to these people on the phone. Let's get a face-to-face, right place, right time, even if we only get 30 seconds to talk to somebody. We're starting to get the wheels rolling. Trademark Watchdogs, we're looking at an LLC. We're looking at basically a company, not to make money, but as a shell to protect some of the people. Because I think some of the fighting back is going to come. We've seen a lot of hate. We've been called every word in the book in private messages. We get some really angry people that come in and post. So we're just starting. This is just going to get ugly. But let's start putting the foundation together that really make us something. We're just at the early stages of putting the Patreon together. I need to get a couple of rundowns for people what's going on with the Patreon. Really, right now, the Patreon is sitting there and waiting to be used. However, just because you have $10,000 or $12,000 in a Patreon, if we do one cancellation of a trademark, we know right now we're going to spend $4,000 just to start.
Right.
And that's before getting another attorney to fight back. That's saying, hey, we caught a bully. The bully is scared. The bully walked away and we canceled his mark. Very easily, we could spend $10,000 or $12,000 on one action. So we're really in the infant stages of the group. But we get a few wins and things are really going to explode and we're really going to be able to do something.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So I do think that for sure is something. So everybody, we're going to kind of go on a couple different topics here because we could probably sit here all night and chat with and pull everything out of it. We're gonna talk about a couple different topics. So first, real quick though, if you're on here and checking this out, you can go to the Facebook page and go on there. There's links right away. I'm sure there's, it's easy to find that stuff. They do a great job of posting, keeping stuff organized. There's training on being able to file LOPs, letter of protest, and everything in there. So, and on this channel, we'll make sure to drop the links as well. I'm not super YouTube person yet, but I know Miss Amy's working on that. So we'll make sure to have the links in there for that. And then get on that Patreon for sure. Because like you said, in order to make a huge impact, there's going to have to be some pushback, and that pushback's not going to come cheap. But it will be calculated. It will be, something that is, pretty well thought out to ensure that we're going to be able to make an impact with that. So again, thank you for taking that on and starting it. And it's really awesome to be able to watch that evolve. And excited to definitely see what type of impact can happen, because again, the vision is definitely for it to be something big and have the whole industry kind of change. And who knows who else is going to take notice. Like I said, it's awesome that you're going to that event with the lawyers. And, again, there's people that are already being impacted about this through Etsy. And so with that, just continuing to strengthen in numbers and, kind of getting together to let them know that people aren't going to be pushed around. So I think it's really important. I know that you'll probably stay in the know on everything that's going on with like Under Armour as well. And we'll try and keep people posted as everybody knows that the court system works pretty slow, but
see, I would love to be in a position with something like that Cascade Armory thing to say, hey, as Watchdogs, we'd love to jump behind you and throw our support behind you. We're just not at that point. I mean, like I said, if we're doing all these LOPs, and the Patreon is kind of there for people that want to donate, that want to help out, even people that can't put together an LLP. But the thing is, we're just at the point now where we want to do a cancellation. Well, we're looking at $3,000 to $4,000. I know in a heartbeat that 10 or 12 grand will be gone. I mean, just like that. And the other thing is I know that that's all we have. And if it goes longer, guess whose checkbook it comes out of?
Right.
It's coming out of my pocket. So I'm putting myself on the line on some of these actions. It's just not as easy as saying, hey, let's go after these guys. There's got to be plaintiffs. There's got to be people that have their name down on the document. There's got to be shells created. There's got to be protection created for admins and mods and people like that. I mean, we're entering a whole new battleground here, and it's going to get ugly because, one day we might come up against an Under Armour ourselves, and we're going to have to buck up or shut up. So, right. And if we don't, things are just going to get worse. If we don't actually take a stand, then things will get really bad. I mean, there'd just be a free-for-all.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And like you said, and then that's already being seen through, it's not just print on demand, it's Etsy. It's when they were doing the, inspirational jewelry and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, okay. Next on the hot topics here is just kind of going over a little bit, because you have a really awesome grasp on the content policy and, derivative theft and stuff like that. And that seems to be something that is brought up regularly. And, there's a lot of confusion. And I know there's definitely somewhat of a gray area, and I can see how it can be confusing. However, there's a lot of stuff that's really, really blatant and just a total no-go. And so I think that it's important to continue to help educate people on that, especially people that are just getting started or, that hasn't paid attention enough to this. But it is important. And just so everybody does know, you are responsible. Ignorance is not a line of defense or whatever you want to say. So you're responsible for your business. You're responsible for knowing that you're not infringing or there's no, and derivative stuff. Because people, I hear it all the time. They're like, oh, well, it wasn't pixel for pixel. I actually had, it was funny over Thanksgiving. I had somebody that it was basically one of our top selling shirts. And it was somebody, I mean, there was a lot of like iffy ones that are close by, but I mean, at this point I'm like, gosh, I really think that this is derivative theft. So I put in a claim, and they actually had taken it down, and somebody, the person contacted me and was very specific about, oh, I know who you are. This is your shirt. Well, in the back and forth between Amazon, or it wasn't between Amazon, but in the back and forth, I said, this is my shirt. Is this, because he said that my VA created it original. I said, this is my shirt. I was like, is this the link that you gave your VA to create my shirt that you, and then they totally freaked out, backed off, and was like, done. I'm so sorry. I dropped it, because they walked themselves into, yeah, it's my shirt because you used that to create your shirt. And it was basically dead on. So, and it was horrible too. The design was, it was a horrible copy, but anyways. So, I mean, that was just kind of like my experience with that, but it was just so blatantly obvious that no, you cannot just do basically the same shirt, even if you have them put a little tiny, spin on it. There's, you can get in trouble for that. So, can you expand on derivative theft and stuff like that?
Well, this is a big topic, and the first thing about copyright is very subjective. Ultimately, it comes down to a fight between two people and somebody standing in the middle as a judge and saying yes or no to whatever the claim is. I'm not an expert on copyright. I've had to learn quite a bit about it. I've had the privilege of being able to learn a bit about content with merch specifically, having contact with a number of people at their content policy. When it comes to derivative, it's a tough one because there's two different categories that I see with derivative. There's a lot of derivative theft going on. There's a lot of what they call this improved cat thing. And people, I think a lot of people that haven't learned what copyright is, feel kind of an open ticket to jump on the freeway and do whatever they want. And they get caught up in some of this. They just take the top selling shirt and they say, oh, let's recreate that. Well, what they don't realize is that they didn't actually recreate it. I mean, it's one thing to take an idea and say, wow, this is a hot selling trend, like Eclipse. Everybody's got to get an Eclipse shirt in and see if we can get the magic number, right? But the problem comes is when you see the top selling Lucky Leprechaun shirt and you say, oh, that's really cool. And you hand it to a designer because you're not a designer and say, here, recreate this. So what do? They redraw the leprechaun, they redraw the rainbow, they redraw the pot of gold, and they throw it back up. Well, if you look at the two shirts, they look identical other than they got different graphics. And if you really want to fight and get a lawyer, you can probably get it taken down. But again, it's all very subjective. Now, if you're the first one that comes up with, I don't know, nasty girl or something, like hashtag one of these trendy phrases, and all it is text on the shirt, you're going to have a very tough time trying to call copyright on that, because a good rule of thought would be looking at the Copyright Office for what they're going to let you actually register a copyright for. And if you can legally register a copyright for something with the Copyright Office, you probably have pretty good grounds to stand on. Number one, to go get the copyright, and number two, to defend your art against derivative theft. And I use that as a pretty good measurement for, have I overstepped the bounds? You can't just copyright a simple text shirt. You can't even copyright a hand-drawn lettering shirt. I mean, they won't accept that. They won't accept that as copyright. It's not definitive enough to be art. So is your design actually defendable as a copyright is the first question to ask. And then you start looking at it is, if it is, then why aren't I copyright registering my art, right? And it doesn't necessarily need to be your t-shirt design, but go take the elements that you created. If you have copyright to it, go copyright them. There's a reason Amazon puts registration number. They ask for it as an option. It holds a lot of weight. If you have a copyright registration number, there's almost no question as to whether or not, if you're claiming copyright, whether or not something's going to come down. And people need to stop being scared to take down derivatives. But they have to understand, do I really have the copyright for something? And then they got to ask themselves, is my design really actually original? Right. That's the first question. Ask a real heart-to-heart question. Is mine the actual original? Was I original? Or did I sneak off to Google Images or Redbubble or Facebook and spotted something and recreated it? Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the measuring stick as well. So. Yeah.
And that was the thing. Like it definitely was a common phrase that wasn't even the concern. It was the entire, it was original for sure. I did not you know what? It was one of the first, which is funny. One of the first, and the Thanksgiving shirt. How random is that? But one of the first ones that we had, put up. So then by the time it cycled through this year, seasonality of the shirt, and we're like, wow, it's doing really good again, which is awesome. Kind of a little tip, you guys. I mean, if you haven't been involved for a year yet, it's kind of fun to see that second year, that second season, how your shirts can actually do well. People think that they just you're just one and done, and it doesn't have to be just the top sellers. It's the ones that stick and have done well in the past. And a lot of times you'll be able to see, a good amount of sales from those shirts as well. So I couldn't even imagine, being involved in the very beginning and being in to have your stake in the sand in a lot of those, niches and those shirts, because they'll keep selling. That's for sure.
It's fun. But no. That doesn't change anything. I mean, even old shirts are going to get knocked down. And unless you stay on top of trends, unless you stay fresh, I mean, fashion changes, right? Just because a shirt was selling 3 years ago doesn't mean that it's selling now.
Right. Well, for sure. I definitely do see it. It is fun when some of them are oh my gosh, well, it did well, this year, and then it's doing well again. And definitely not all of them. You gotta keep up with it. But it is kind of nice because, you know, again, I just think that so many people think that it's just like a get like one and done type thing. And like sometimes, you know, if you do something really, really good, or you're, you know, establishing a nice portfolio, that adds up. And just that residual of, you know, the sales is just really awesome to see, because I know a lot of times people feel like they're putting in so much effort, especially on the seasonal stuff. You know, if they do well, and say, well, guess what? There's a finite time. If you're not doing a bunch of evergreen stuff, there's kind of a period of time to where those sales are going to spike and then they're gone. So you definitely need to figure out if you're going to be able to kind of rejuvenate that, and that listing is going to be good, you know, next year, or you know, no reason not to hit the trends and hit the holidays, but definitely sprinkling in with that evergreen. I know you've talked a lot about that as well, which is kind of a good segue into getting into, you know, kind of a general merch discussion a little bit.
I think I cut off Amy there.
I think
I was actually going to go back to what you were saying about not being afraid to file takedowns on derivative theft. And do you think that even people that haven't necessarily got a registration number or a copyright number, that they should also go ahead and file the takedowns if somebody has copied their shirt, their original work?
Of course, no reason not to. I mean, we've seen it probably the last, I don't know, year and a half. There seems to be this thing in the groups about, oh, don't file derivatives, ignore derivatives. No, unless it's pixel for pixel, ignore it. You've got no claim. And I mean, the one that's probably giving you that topic is the one that doesn't want their derivative stuff pulled down. Well, you know what? All these tools and BSR and all this stuff is really nice to go see what's selling and what sales there are. But you know what? If your whole purpose is to go grab the top 100 shirts and just recreate them and throw them back up, you're playing with fire, because people need to start fighting back. If they, like I said, if they were the original and they can honestly say that, and they're not just some copy of something else, well, yeah, then go take it down. Merch doesn't want the derivative stuff any more than we do. But it's a management thing. I mean, they don't have the kind of team that can just sit there all day long and look at every listing and compare it to all the other listings and say this was derivative or not. I mean, it comes down to a fight ultimately between the one taking it down and the one that had the shirt. That's why it comes down and they say, go contact the person that took it down and fight it out amongst yourselves. Now, there is some fake takedowns and they can be overturned. But, I mean, ultimately, if you want to play this game and you don't like it, well, go lawyer up. Go get a lawyer, send a letter. It's not as easy to do if the person's in Vietnam, but if they're in the U.S. and they've got some U.S.-looking Gmail, well, you know, go look them up and go hit them if you got a fake takedown. So I see Emily mentioned something about sometimes you take people down and by accident your shirt comes down. Yeah, it's happened to me. You know what? Contact support. Let them know. Sometimes they look past that and they give you another robot answer, but just stay on it. If it's important enough to you, you can get it restated and you can get it back up, and just don't panic. Don't freak out over stuff.
Yeah. And, you know, and even you saying that aspect of it, I do have to say, I just feel from like last year, it's like night and day when it comes to just, I've been thinking that it's been very, very smooth lately with merch, and they're really doing some awesome stuff and moving in the right direction for sure. I mean, before it was kind of like it felt a little bit uneasy, but I think they hit a good groove recently.
Yeah, I mean, all of us have had our complaints, right? I mean, anybody that's been here since 2015 with merch has seen all kinds of growing pains. But you know what? The same growing pains are going on with the merch staff. There's a lot of advancements, a lot of things happening. You know, for every time they do something good, they get 5 things that somebody says they did something bad. Well, like I said last Christmas, hey, the best thing you could do is just write support and say, hey, thanks for all you've done. Thanks for fixing my issue. You know, have you ever thought how much time it takes them to try and hold this all together? So they're doing their best, and they're constrained to their own rules and guidelines that they have, and they'll be the first to admit they're very conservative. I mean, they get a takedown, they get a trademark, they're going to take it down because they're not going to get in the middle of some kind of remediation or mediation between two parties. It's just not their job, and we can't expect it to be their job.
So in the merch realm, I know one of the first times that I had even met you was at the the licensing expo, and we've talked about that before. And I know that that is actually coming up, and that's part of one of the things that you've kind of kept your sights on as well. You know, doing a really good job of diversifying and finding creative ways to build this business. So what types of things whether it's licensing, whether it's whatever, what types of things are you really focused on with merch right now? There's local merch, all this kind of stuff, and what's in your plan?
Licensing is a lot of fun just because of the people that you get to work with, a lot of the brands you get to see, a lot of people that you talk to, and it's just exciting to see brands that are always built, and now you have an opportunity to go sell them. Local merch is fun, doing some work on that front. I mean, that one's, I think, something that a lot of people don't understand and don't see how it really works. So you're not selling a t-shirt, but you're actually selling advertising for a company. And when you can get those two things to merge real well, you don't need a lot of shirts out there to sell a whole lot of shirts. I know it just from my background with screen printing and subcontracting. When some of these companies buy shirts that are just promo items, I mean, they'll order 1,000, 2,000 at a time. I mean, who wouldn't like 1,000 or 2,000 shirt sale on merch, and there's ways to work it. There's creative ways. And Mike Gall's done a great job at that. But that's a lot of fun. Licensing's a lot of fun. And then spending, as my wife would say, way too much time on Trademark Watchdogs. So I'm glad that I've got a fairly good account that just kind of passively, it rolls right along. I walk away from my account and do very well after 4 or 5 weeks and then go look at it, which affords that. But you have to stay on top of it because, as I said, trends change, fashions change, ideas change. And if you're not staying on top of it, even the big accounts are going to fall down.
So with that said, too, I mean, we really don't even have to worry about, you hear a lot of people complain about oversaturation or there's no way to get in. But when you look at it like that, where there's always new trends, things are changing in the industry with fashion wise, what's unicorns today and sloths tomorrow, it really is pretty limitless.
Oh, it's huge. If you've attended, some of the people that attended the licensing show last year, some of the keynote, like Merch did the keynote for the licensing show, and they blew it out. Like, this is us. This is Merch by Amazon. I think that was more saying this is print on demand. It's not so much this is Merch by Amazon, but this is print on demand. And anybody that saw the keynote topic there saw companies like Cartoon Network, Shane Dawson, who was Universal. They had a number of these bigwigs up on the stage. And the overall thought process I got from them was, this kind of caught us by surprise. I mean, we never believed that a fan could create our most popular shirt for Rick and Morty, and our designers would have never have made that. I mean, we'd have never have told them to make it. Mm-hmm. And here we are, our eyes are being opened because print on a demand allows people to do testing, test 50 or 100 products, and not worry about whether they sell, because you're going to print them and ship them when they do sell. And that's revolutionary. So when people say this is saturated, merch is saturated, yeah, you know what? The tie into that is, merch they flicked a switch and all the organic traffic was gone. And people seem to think they can pin it down to whatever, December 2016, they changed something. They didn't. They didn't change it. The organic traffic is still there. We've got a lot more designers, a lot more competition. You go into any of these niches now, and the design quality is way up for the stuff that is selling. Like, come on. If you compared St. Patrick's Day today to 2 years ago and compare the shirts that are up, totally different ball game. I mean, there's some great stuff out there, and it's only going to get better. So the good designers with creative designs and good keywords are going to excel. They're going to grow. The people that adapt to local merch and licensing and, all these other kinds of things that they can do, expanding out to Shopify and to Etsy and building a brand, they're the ones that are going to win. The people that I know that were in early, yeah, you had an advantage. But the people that were in early and have done nothing with their account right now are just as low as some of the people that are complaining that merch is dead or merch is oversaturated, because they haven't kept up. And I've seen some very big sellers that have got caught up by that wave that were way out in front of us in the early days, and now you never hear from them. And part of that is because they weren't able to adapt. They either weren't designers, they weren't able to find the trends. In 2015 and 16, anything you threw up would sell. It's not the same thing. But if you put up something that's really good, that's got good keywords, and maybe throw a couple of ads at it to get it in front of the customer, you're going to sell and you're going to make sales. And the smart people are staying ahead and doing very well. And that's just the way the print on demand. So with print on demand, we're just scratching the surface for where this is going to go. We're just getting, I mean, merch still, what? They're only selling t-shirts in Europe. They don't even have tank tops or raglans, or, you know, we don't even have coffee mugs in the US. Like, come on, there's so many things that can come forward that are going to come, and it's going to get really big, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
So where do you think someone should focus their time right now on merch to adapt or whatever? Should they be focusing more on their research, more on their design, or is it just kind of like all of the above?
It's a tough one to say. I spend 80% of my time researching, and research could be as simple as, you know, searching out my favorite hobby. And it's not even looking at t-shirts. It's going into groups and finding out the funniest jokes going on, or the funniest phrases within my own profession, or, you know, I don't know, maybe I want to go buy some chickens and raise some chickens, and, you know, and do some chicken shirts and compete with the other 30,000 people doing chicken shirts.
No.
Now, another thing, should we be afraid to jump in on a niche that has 30,000 other designs in it?
No. If you have good designs, like you, Amy, you've got an artist hand. You're teaching yourself a lot of things with lettering, and I mean, I could see you getting into some of these niches with some really cool designs. If you go ask Jose, does he have a problem entering into a really tough niche and selling shirts? No, because he's got good shirts. He's got good keywords. He may run some ads. You don't need 10,000 shirts to be able to do this. And don't be afraid to go after St. Patrick's Day. I mean, come on. This is one of the hottest holidays where they run out of green, and everybody and their dog wants to put it up. But I can guarantee if you've got good shirts and good keywords and spend a little bit of money on ads, you're going to be selling, you know, you'll sell shirts. And
time is ticking on this season, but
yeah, we're getting a little late now, but go do a search. How many St. Patrick's Day shirts are up right now? Right? Not just merch by Amazon, but also the third-party stuff, because that's kind of an apples to oranges, but it's part of the same fruit basket that you need to add up. Yeah, there's thousands and thousands of designs, and I know people that can put up a brand new batch of shirts 45 days, 60 days ago, and they're doing just fine this year on St. Patrick's Day.
Right. So before we kind of let you kind of talk about whatever topic you want to talk about.
Well, no, this doesn't ask me anything.
This is the wild card. Okay, well, one of the things that I was just wondering is, like, so you obviously have been in from the beginning, and of course have evolved with merch. What do you see, if you can think back to like last year or ish that time, what has been the biggest change in basically your focus, or, you know, what have you evolved to now from last year?
Thought process on brands.
Okay.
Building a brand and not just, you know, throwing everything under, you know, generic terms for a brand, or just kind of going down all of these shiny object syndrome, right? Mm-hmm. Which it can make you a lot of money, but I think what can make you a lot more money is if you build a brand and you start building an audience, and then it doesn't matter what you put up to that brand, because if you've got the right audience, all of a sudden you put something up and they all want to buy it. Yeah. And that's really important. And that's even more key when you look at the fact that you have print on demand. A whole different ballgame if you were 5-10 years ago building a brand of t-shirts that you had to screen print and build up an inventory in your warehouse hoping you would sell this stuff, versus now, well, let's put up something and test it on Instagram. Let's test it with my audience on Facebook. Let's see if people will search it out. Can I throw some ads? And they say, oh, wow, yeah, I love that. And, you know, you get 1,000 sales that day off of a shirt that people love. I think that's key for people, is looking at how do they brand themselves out.
Yeah. And I think that's really, really important too, because I mean, just like with anything, I know everybody's excited about being able to just, you know, throw up shirts and make sales, and that can be really, really quick if you know, get it right, do your research right, you know, hit the right trends, that type of thing. But there's no reason why you can't do both, and you don't want to miss the boat. If this is something that you're committed to, if you want to do something and really, really build something out, you can still play around with those methods, but it's going to take time. It's going to, I mean, the legal process is not fast anyways. Like I was even going through like with our trademark and I'm like, geez, well, we should have it by flipping Q4 and we, started it last year. So I'm like, okay, So that's how it's going to be. And so, I mean, the other thing is if you're going to talk about like doing a brand per se, because that's really what we're talking about, not just jumping at a trademark because you want to school a phrase. Like if you're really going to build a brand also, it's important to realize maybe, if it's going to be something that might potentially conflict or even have something, you might want to speak with a lawyer first. Because I know there's a lot of, services that you can just hop online and then it's $250, but I don't think people like fully understand that aspect of it. And again, it's definitely not to scare people whatsoever. I just think be wise with what you're choosing. If you're going to build an actual brand, you don't need to necessarily grasp onto a common phrase. That's not what that's about. Like you can for sure, but it's going to be a lot easier and less expensive for you to get something that does not a common phrase. And then you can continue to build your brand out that way. There's protection for you, which is just fantastic at that point. That just gives you even better, especially if somebody comes on like jacks your brand, because that sadly, I don't know if that's happened very much often, but I know that that was happening a lot. So, but yeah, I think that's a really good point, and people should start now. Like start that now. Like it doesn't have to be your sole focus, but start working on that now and learning on what you want to do. And it's going to take a little while. So
yeah. It all takes time, but it's all kind of a measured balance in your workload of what you're doing. And some people want to focus on different things. I just think that there's a whole lot of things that you can do with print on demand, whether it's licensing, whether it's, making your own art, making your own, I don't know, wicked clothes brand, right? Like come up with some really quirky thing that you get a following of people. And then any new shirt or idea you come up with, who cares what else is selling? Because it's your fan base that's going to buy all this stuff. I mean, if you're into even a private label, like, is there a way that you can take your private label and build up your brand that your shirts now become kind of a buying point to your product? I mean, these are all intertwined things. And shirts are, the apparel business is very powerful because t-shirts aren't going anywhere. The advent of a printed t-shirt came along and it hasn't disappeared since it came up. Because people want to wear it on their chest. And even now in the realm of social media, it's even more so because you don't have to pick up the telephone and talk to someone. You don't even have to sit at a ball game and talk to the person next to you. If I look at my kids, they text each other even though they're sitting next to each other because they're talking about the person in front of them. Well, t-shirts are the same thing. You want to wear it, but you don't necessarily want to have a conversation with somebody. You just want to show how cool you are or what brand you're wearing or what statement you want to make during the latest political race or whatever it be. That's what t-shirts have become, and they're a cheap medium. They're a throwaway medium. Hoodies maybe not, but t-shirts, they're a $15 or a $20 throwaway unless you're a Supreme brand and you're selling it for some crazy $100 a t-shirt. Most of these t-shirts, come on, how many times do you really wear them? You go to a fun run, you wear the shirt once, you throw it in the oily rag basket, right? Like you use it for paint rags. That's just what t-shirts are, but you can make a lot of money because there's so many of them being bought, so many of them being picked up by people. Look at the solar eclipse. Like, come on, how many millions of shirts were sold for the solar eclipse? How many people really wear their solar eclipse shirt now, right? Yeah. It's a neat paradigm that we're in right now with how they're used and how you get a message across, and you're almost crazy not to be part of that influx.
Well, and I think too, I kind of just thought about this. It's definitely not an original idea, I'm sure, by any means, but one of the things that when you do have, you mentioned like, your private label business and, once somebody is interested in potentially wearing your shirt, and number one, people will do almost anything for a free t-shirt. Yeah. Just how it is, so there's that. But then, and I know we talked a little bit about local merch, and I haven't done, much with that. But, that's one of the things as a small business that does have, physical products, and this could be a service business, this could be a brick and mortar, like in your guys' town or whatever. Like if you present it to the way, because I know personally, like the last thing that I would want to do as a small business is buy a slew of giveaway t-shirts per se if I don't have a plan for it. So here's what, you could just say, oh my gosh, they're able to give away a t-shirt. Okay, one a week, whatever they want to do, promotion, this, that, and the other. And it's going to cost them practically nothing. And the person gets to pick their size. They're not wasting. That's one of the biggest things too. They get to pick their color, they get to pick their size, they can have their logo on the front of it. And then they're not wasting all that money and investing in stuff that's just sitting around until they want to revamp and do a new promotion. So, I mean, with that, like that's something that people could actually go do local merch and sell that to people if people just want to do it as promotion. And that's a good way to be able to lock in, an account or whatever.
Oh, just so many things you can do. It's just endless. It's absolutely endless. The people that get stuck are the ones that aren't looking at where all the different avenues they could go down. Like when I hear merch is dead, yeah, well, you've gotten frustrated because you put up your 10 or 15 shirts, and this is another interesting thing that I see happening right now is people come into merch and they say, "Oh, sales are dead. I'm tier 100. I'm tier 1000. The sales just aren't there." And the first question I ask some people when I've done some coaching is, "Have you had anybody actually look at your designs?" Because you'll see them arguing, "I got good designs." Well, have you had anybody quantify that? And a lot of times you look at their stuff and you're like, "Well, I'll tell you why you're not selling. Are you a designer?" "Well, no, but I get a designer to do it." "Well, what's the research you did?" "Okay, well, your research is kind of shady on that one. Because you don't understand. I can look at it and say, you don't understand the colors you should have used. You don't understand the phrases. Are you in the groups?" And it's funny because even with Merch Informer, as much as Merch Informer is a great tool, it's got all kinds of stuff. I can almost not even think of how I could probably count on one hand how many times I've used it in the last couple of months. And that's nothing against the program. When I need to go research a new niche, I'm not looking at what the designs are. I just kind of want to see what the sales volume is. And that's just good competition. Anybody wants to take a look at a market. You're not going to open a pizza restaurant in an area that's got 6 other pizza restaurants. You want to know that you can enter a market and take a portion of the sales. I mean, that's just good business. Now, to go look at what's actually up there, couldn't care less. Come up with your own ideas. It's the new ideas that are going to sell and that are going to make you a lot of money.
Yep, for sure. Okay, before my last question, Amy, do you have any?
Yeah. So, Ken, you have a show now with Jay. Would you like to talk a little bit about y'all's show?
Oh boy, the shirt heads. Yeah, that one's interesting. Jay's an interesting guy. I came across him. I'm going to make no qualms about it. I've done some business with him in the last couple of years. And part of what came forward with Trademark Watchdogs come from my business with Jay. And knowing where Jay goes back on the print-on-demand business and knowing the history of what's happened. I mean, you could write a book on what's going on that formed Trademark Watchdogs. I mean, it's just a roller coaster of events. And Jay's just, he got a good mind for Etsy. I actually helped bring him into merch. I convinced him, hey, you need an account. You got to sell some shirts over here, not just on Etsy and not just your own private label stuff and your own private printer stuff. So it's been a good thing, and another Canuck, I've got some U.S. ties now, with my family being dual citizens, but, it's nice to have another Canuck and the two of us Canadians can have a show. And we're just going to fire it off. We're going to play with the Merch Fairy group and answer some questions. And our show will be more of an Ask Me Anything. It's just simply hey, fire away. I'll answer your merch stuff. You'll answer your Etsy stuff, and we'll both answer your print-on-demand stuff. So it should be fun. Right
now, is it going to be like pop-up times, or have you guys, locked on? I know he's traveling right now, isn't he?
He's traveling right now. We're looking at doing it every 2 weeks, probably Tuesday nights. Cool. So it should be fun.
Awesome. And then, so what about is there any, anything that's like coming out for the merch conference this year? Have you kind of have anything?
You would ask that, wouldn't you? Yeah, actually that's on the hot seat right now. I'm heavily involved in planning out what we want to do for September. We are going to hold it in September. I'm not sure it's going to be Seattle though. I'm toying around with another location. So, and that's not to say that it's not going to be able to tie into what merch is all about either. But we're just in the early stages of figuring that out. Regardless, we are going to hold it in September.
Okay.
I think it's a great networking tool. It's a great time to get together. And so a great time sometimes, if we're lucky, to meet some merch staff and to talk to them and get some networking there.
So everybody block off your September. It's basically what he's saying.
Probably late September. We'll follow along with the same thing. The major thing that we're looking at is the last 2 years. If you leave it to me and Chris, it's probably going to be left till the beginning of July. And then we'll be, oh, no, we better put this together. And, you know, all of a sudden in July, we say, everybody buy a ticket. And then people are like, well, why didn't you tell me a couple of months earlier? So I would kind of like to have this out to people by the end of March, beginning of April. Cool. To have it locked down what we're doing so that people have from April to September to figure this out. Lots of time to plan and to book it. So, but yeah, I see Josh talking about Seattle. Seattle is pretty expensive. And the reason we hold it there is because it's so close to the merch office. But there's another option that we may have that may be cheaper, that may afford us to the same access. And
not way on the other side of the country for me anyways, so I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, well, it might be on that other side of the country going from Vegas. So.
Well, better weather. Oh, okay, Vegas will work. We're good with that. But all right, cool. Well, thank you so much. We will be on the lookout for the info on that. That's awesome that it can be coming up kind of soon. Because you know what? If you guys have not ever been, you definitely do not want to miss that. It is a lot of fun. A lot of incredible info, and I mean, just being able to connect and ask questions of people like this. I mean, the relationships that are built there are awesome, and the community is just, it was the first thing. I had never been actually involved in much of any of like the online communities when it came to that, even though we had been in physical products for years and years prior. But you know, merch has just been awesome, that everybody's just so encouraging and helpful. And no matter what people come on there and think they want to bitch and moan, I mean, it just blows my mind. Because I'm like, these people don't have to say anything to you, but they're actually sitting here trying to help you. So hopefully, I think there's a good amount of people that get it and appreciate it. And yeah, but if you guys can make it out, that is going to be really, really awesome. Hopefully it's, like I said, at least someplace warm. That's for sure.
It'll be someplace warm. If I have my pipe dream, it'll be someplace warm. It'll be someplace that costs significantly less than Seattle, and it'll sell out in a heartbeat. Yeah. And we're not looking, this isn't about making money on a conference. This is just simply having a killer event that people can network. And this year, I think we'll keep it to probably the 2 days. One day of the blah, 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 and one day to where we really want to get down to roundtabling and networking and things like that people can get hands on. And I mean, one thing we've seen is people want masterminds. Like we saw this from our little thing in California. Some of us went out to California a week ago, and then people were saying, well, why didn't you post an invite to people? Well, it was kind of a private mastermind. Yeah. Well, how do I get in that mastermind? Well, you create your own. And I would kind of like to see the merge conference kind of be around, how do you get these masterminds? How do you connect with 10 people that are at the conference and walk away and say, I trust that guy to show him my stuff, so that when Ken asks me, have you shown anybody your designs? Well, now I've got 5 other people I can show my designs and get input on. And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Amber G is a smart one.
What did you say? Where is it on there? I don't think I'm missing. Is somebody talking on there?
Yeah, I'm looking at YouTube gotcha. Right now.
You're calling it out. Yeah,
I think it's great that our guest is better at looking at the YouTube chat than we are.
But no, I could not agree more. And I think that's something that even in the, again, you know, I talk a lot with people in the e-com space in general, and getting out and going to, you know, different events. And that is a huge part of it. Like, otherwise you just kind of can really feel alone. And fortunately, you know, that's not something that we've dealt with. I've been able to, again, and it takes a while. It can take a while to kind of like, quote unquote, build up your tribe, but you'll connect with somebody, and then, you know, that'll just grow and grow and grow. And yeah, I think that's a big big thing that people would need to take advantage of, but it does. That's exactly where it starts is the regular events. I mean, all of the people, I don't even think outside Kristen wasn't even in Michigan at the time. She's in Michigan now, but there's nobody that was there that's from Michigan. It's only people that I've met, you know, at the different events that I've went to, starting with, well, that the Jersey merch one. And then there was Merchella. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that, but I'll say it because there's a whatever issue with that name. But then there's, you know, the licensing expo and then, you know, Seattle last year. So just building those relationships and getting to see people. And that's really exciting too, when that comes, you know, full circle, or that event comes around, because you get to go and, you know, see your friends again that are going through the same stuff as you do. You are probably some of the same struggles, have some of the same doubts. And when you're able to connect with that, obviously it's not just at the events, but, you know, through messages and stuff like that, like it makes the entire experience just all that much better for sure.
I thought Newport was cool. Because what was that? We were in our chat and it's like somebody said, hey, I'm going to throw something together on this Saturday. Who would want to come? And people were like, I'm booking my ticket. Yeah, I'm flying. I'm coming. Like that just goes to show what a mastermind can do for people. You get into a group where you're not afraid to share anything with these people. You share your rants, you share your wins, you share your great selling shirts, you share your links. And it's not about anybody trying to, oh boy, yeah, I got something out of him. We're actually sharing all of our quote secrets with everybody. It's like, hey, I figured this out. Everybody go do this because I think this is really beneficial to your business. And then you get a group of people to say, yeah, oh, heck yeah, I'll drop what I'm doing in 3 weeks and fly out there and meet with everybody. And it's just the camaraderie. I mean, the discussion wasn't about a set schedule. It was, hey, throw up your can, ask questions, get to know these people even better so that next month, you're even more confident that you can trust these people. And I think that's really important that people need to start doing. Stop relying on a Facebook group or something like that for answers and start building out your little group of 10 people. And don't worry about what somebody else is doing in their mastermind. Don't worry about how do I get into your group. Just go form your own. Go get together with some people, develop some relationships, and you'd be surprised where it takes you.
Yeah. For sure. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for popping on, and thanks everybody else for hopping on and hanging with us and hearing about all this good stuff. I liked the variety touch points, our assignment that we had today. So that was a good time. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. And we're looking forward to that event information. I'm always on like pins and needles, but I can't wait for that. So
September. There you go.
In the works. All right, guys, we have a wonderful night and we will see you guys soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.